Hi.
We're live right
We
away,
are.
instantly. Usually there's a countdown clock for these things, people, but Restream is in it to win it. So Lindy Kaiser, senior editor, ClearanceJobs, Jill Hamilton, editor, ClearanceJobs, the delightful Katie Keller, editorial communications manager at ClearanceJobs. These titles are all irrelevant, people, but she's on the chat thread monitoring, making sure we are actually live, LinkedIn live on this. What in the heck day is it? Thursday.
Top Gun Day.
Exactly. I was saying, most importantly, Jill, what day is it today?
Top Gun.
Another great day to be an American is what it is, but also
Right.
Top Gun Day. We're not here to talk about Top Gun, although LinkedIn Live would be a great place to talk about how delightful. Hey, Katie Keller sees us. It would be a great time to talk about how much we love Top Gun. We're here to talk about the latest white paper at ClearanceJobs. It was released in April. The lovely Jill Hamilton put it together, a compilation of data that we got from our ClearanceJobs compensation report. And it was specifically, we segmented out the folks who were unemployed from that survey. Obviously, that number went up. I can't remember the exact percentage.
It went up by 1,500 more candidates.
Okay, 1,500 more candidates.
Just more. Normally we have a much lower number of unemployed candidates. So there was definitely a bigger increase this year.
Yeah, so there were Christopher. Hello, Christopher. I agree. We probably should just talk about Top Gun during our work day. But we're also going to talk about unemployment because we are on LinkedIn or also on YouTube or wherever the heck else we're streaming this. So for unemployed candidates, there can be a stigma. We've talked about that a lot at ClearanceJobs from a recruiter standpoint. Katie has written about it on the site. Sometimes for recruiters, there is this thought that they want to hire already employed candidates, the coveted passive candidates. I think the paper, what it does say is that there's the quality of a candidate who is currently unemployed, and that could be pandemic related, is pretty high. So maybe talk through a little bit, Jill, what were some of the demographics, like status, who makes up some of that unemployed population?
Yeah, definitely Gen X and management level were hard hit in the cleared industry. So it wasn't just they're educated. They've got at least a bachelor's degree. If they only stopped at a bachelor's, they were a little bit harder hit than some of the others. So it's not like they don't have the education or the certifications. They have those things, but it was a bad year all around. Even though we fared better in defense industry, definitely still felt some of the impacts. But the good news is, as long as contracts are coming, I think a contract end on one would actually, that was one of the second reasons. Retirement was a big number that hit people this year, whether it was moving out of the military, retiring from military, so they're still looking for work, or just retiring for good. It's probably a good year to do that in 2020, right? But the contract ending was next, which does impact us a lot in the defense industry. And sometimes it can be hard to move from one contract to the next if you don't have something lined up or a bigger organization that can kind of bump you over to something else. So that was a reason this year.
Well, and that ties into, I believe, a video that we're posting today, which is a good reminder for me. Get that video up. About words not put in your, this is why we're having this call, people, just so I can remember what I used to do for my job. What words not to put in your resume, why you should always have a resume current. And that's what I find even about ClearanceJobs. There used to be even a stigma for candidates. Why are you on ClearanceJobs? Well, other than the hard-hitting, innovative content and the excellent live videos, it's because you always need to be networking in your career. Because again, contract ending, like you said, was one of the top reasons for unemployment. That cycle in the in the cleared industry, especially if you're in the contract market, contracts end, you need to move on to different things. You should always have a resume that's pretty reflective of your skills and up to date. But none of us are ever really great at doing that. But I thought that was a good reminder because but the other thing that was interesting about the demographics too, that I want to remember to ask too, furloughs were a small, like the smallest segment of folks said that they were actually furloughed, which I think that shows that the industry is still fairly resilient, because probably a lot of folks who were going to be furloughed are going to just jump into another opportunity rather than take that furlough. Maybe, I don't know. You're in DC. You've lived a few
Right.
furloughs. What do you think is the vibe behind a furlough notice?
Right. Well, and normally, you see more in the defense industry, their contracts have to be changing in order for there to be furloughs happening, or a shutdown, or continuing resolution didn't happen when it needed to be in order to keep doors open. That tends to be more what affects us for furloughs here. So unless if you have an employer who either keeps a deeper bench or has a few contract positions that they don't need, you typically wouldn't see the furlough happening because contracts are still happening and they're getting paid. Furloughs are more when they have to like cut costs in a different manner, and you support perhaps in a different way on a contract. You're not one of the key personnel, those types of things. So that's, to me, that is one of the things with the defense industry this past year. It stayed so strong. Contracts were already in place. We just found a different way to work. So just because we went home, and the CARES Act was huge in keeping doors open, because typically contractors can't keep paying people on overhead, or they don't like to. It does cut into profits a lot, and it cuts into like all your future plans. So I remember a life as a contractor where you could bill very little to overhead, even like training, usually try to get it to match to what your contractor on. Like there's different ways to go about doing that, but they didn't typically like to have overhead costs. So sending people home for weeks at a time without a contract to bill to would not have worked. So without that CARES Act, doors would not have stayed open for most government contractors.
Yeah, and I think, the CARES Act did what it was supposed to do as far as keeping government contractors running and ensuring work was still able to be accomplished. And now we're seeing the offices are reopening. I feel like for the most part, at least a few days a week, people can get in there, and already innovative things were put in place so people could work shift schedules, be in and out of the office. Until there was a gas shortage, of course, no one could get to work anyway. So he said, Christopher William said hi from the USS Essex. Don't run out of gas on the USS Essex. I can say that, Christopher.
3 times fast.
Again, reminder, this is Clearance Jobs. We're having a LinkedIn Live. We're talking about our cleared and unemployed white paper. So I'm seeing a lot of chatter activity from folks asking about positions, looking into work. We have tens of thousands of job openings at ClearanceJobs.com. So this is a good reminder. Have an active profile. Keep your information current, because in this market, you do not need to be unemployed for very long, because we do still see contracts are being awarded. I would still say it's a candidate's market in the sense that we have a lot of our employers who have openings. The defense industry has not taken, a huge dive. Yeah, Katie's talking about the IT positions that are listed on our site. We certainly have a lot of job opportunities out there. I did think the other thing that was interesting in the white paper, the mid-senior and managers were a little bit harder hit. Any thoughts there why those folks maybe are more likely to be unemployed right now?
Well, I think those are harder to find. Those positions, I think, are harder to find sometimes when you roll off of one contract and you go to the next. A lot of times companies might want to use somebody who's already internal to be the next project manager for the next contract, because they know the system internally, they know the team, maybe they even helped get the contract team together. So looking for one right out of the gate and finding an open position is sometimes harder. And sometimes you have to be willing to accept a step back, maybe get onto a team, get into a company before you can take those 2 to 3 steps forward. Just being more fluid with your career path sometimes, when you're in that middle management position, can go a long ways to longevity in your career and like getting to where you want to go. So, and just not getting stuck too, like, it's that time. I think that's at that point in your career where people also are like, I don't want to just do stuff for money anymore. Like, just take any contract that comes along. It pays the bills. I want to do a little bit more. It's not quite that midlife crisis, but that could be a component in it as well. Just on dissatisfaction and just keeping the status quo and actually wanting to move and have a little bit more a better career trajectory after that.
Well, and this hit kind of, in around the COVID timeframe, but I think we had enough of that timeframe under our belts. Not certainly all of it, but enough to say, like,
Right.
people might have been looking for some flexibility. And especially, again, that's kind of a demographic where you have the crunch of, like, maybe you have parents that you need to take care of, or that you're anxious about COVID issues. And then you also have kids who probably
Right.
are not going to school. So again, you can't necessarily just take the next job that's available, like you said. So you might be unemployed
Right.
because you're a manager and your requirements aren't just for salary and a good job. It's that you need the flexibility to work remotely to take care of school
Right.
kids or other things like that.
Yeah. I had a friend who in Northern Virginia, the kids kind of just made it back in the public schools. And they're like, if the buses don't have enough gas to take these kids to school, I'm going to lose my mind. So the parents have been through a lot for sure.
Just
So
new chances to challenge our ability to cope with the struggles. Yeah. What is it? Okay. Oh, yeah. Jacob Nugent posted a comment here, said he's hungry for opportunities. I like that.
Stay
Go,
hungry.
Jacob. You're hungry
Yeah.
for opportunities. Update your profile. Look at ClearanceJobs.com. See what we have to offer. Make sure your profile is active. And he was talking about he's getting ready to transition. I think listing that transition date is a good idea. So it gives folks kind of a benchmark for, hey, this is the date I'm, transitioning out. This is when I'm looking for an opportunity. And certainly if it's any time in the summer, now is the time to be looking for sure. Even if if your transition out date is in the fall, I think now is a decent time. I hear service members transitioning out, and that was a big portion of this survey. Folks who are unemployed or coming out of the military and potentially might be unemployed for a season and they have a little bit more flexibility, depending on if they're getting, compensation from their military service still, they might have more flexibility to be unemployed for a longer period of time. But I think a year out is not, I don't think, too early to start looking, especially if you list that date. As long as you're upfront, there's contractors who are pipelining for those opportunities.
Right. I think it's like looking for real estate. The best thing to do is to always have your eye on it, like years before you maybe even plan on move, which is why people love to talk about the passive candidate. It's kind of like the passive mover, like we had, and maybe it's just this area and then the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. We would spend years looking and looking and looking, sometimes going and checking something out, i.e. go on an interview, and then be like, no, it's not the right time. It's not the right place or the right position. And then when you're ready, you really know that this is the right step. That way it's not quite just job hunting all the time, which is, some people are do, and that's great for them, especially when there's contracts. You might only have a year left on a contract. You fill the position, you're ready to move around, keeps things going for you. But keeping your eye on the job landscape is really key to not being caught unaware when, even if we had a downturn this past year, just just knowing what's out there on the horizon is a good thing to do. So
yeah, I blame HGTV for that, though. Man, everybody's looking for the next best thing. I blame Joanna Gaines. My house is never going to look like that. Look at me. I have a ClearanceJobs backdrop in my home office. I can't be HGTV ready. What's the HGTV for job seekers? I don't know. The ClearanceJobs marketplace. ClearanceJobs. We are the HGTV for your cleared job. We have a marketplace of opportunities. You can connect. You can now post video messages. You can get video messages from employers. We have a lot going on. So it's always a good time to be networking and engaged in your career. Anything else about the Cleared and Unemployed white paper, Jill?
I think the main takeaway is that while it did this past year impacted more, I think it's clear that we have people that have clearances. They all had active clearances, all the respondents. They're ready to work. They're educated. They're certified. So just because the last year it might be a bit of a, it did feel a bit heavier just as a country. Any job losses in this past year just are the beginnings for new jobs in the upcoming year. So
Yeah.
I think that's the key there for us.
And Jeffrey Haviland posted that. He said, it seems like, and this is borne out in the survey responses, it seems like the older you get, the harder it is to find an opportunity. Master's doesn't necessarily help. I think that was borne out in the responses. We see, just separating out compensation, that master's degree, as you get more senior, certainly helps with compensation, but it's not necessarily, higher education is not
Right. I
necessarily
think
a buffer for unemployment.
Yeah, I think it depends upon the position. Really, I think the longer you are in your career, the better it is to hone in on what it is that you actually want to focus on. So, an MBA is great, and you can get a new position with that. But what part of business do you actually want to be working in? And then how can you find more education or certification opportunities that actually hone in on what you're interested in? And then you kind of hones in also like your job search. So you're not just trying to reorient your resume to like 100 open positions, because that probably means a lot of them really aren't, I mean, we want to like make everything tailored to different positions, but when you're trying to tailor for lots and lots of different opportunities, a lot of them probably aren't really great fits for you. That might be like, it might be good to spend some time just to figure out where you actually want to go.
Well,
Which takes
but
time.
Alex Bomba said just got his job. He had to apply to 67 positions though
Well, hey,
before he
so
made it.
perseverance does pay
So
off.
perseverance, Alex,
For the win.
congratulations. He did not lose that loving feeling for searching for the right job. How many
What you did there.
Top Gun
I
Day
see it.
people, and I don't have enough references. Talk to me, Goose.
There you
Jill,
go.
what do you?
Yes.
Those are like the only two that I can remember.
I feel the need for speed.
I feel the
Yeah.
need for a new cleared career at ClearanceJobs.com.
I did see somebody talked about remote opportunities, which we'll be talking a lot more about. And we have some articles out on the news site on remote work. But I have heard from some companies just on that, even though there's cleared positions, there is remote opportunities that are out there, as well as more like hybrid opportunities where you spend a few days in the office working on your classified work and then taking the unclassified stuff where you can access it at home. So those options are out there. They're not out there for every cleared position. Some don't always, not all have that luxury, but I think employers are also looking into ways to provide more benefits to those who will never get that remote option, just as a good retention push for them. So smart.
That's good. So we have the comment section is flooded with people saying any IT or TSSCI with looking for whatever. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, you might be more likely to get a job in this comment thread if you post your favorite Top Gun quote. No.
Maybe.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Let's go. Katie Keller is managing our comments thread. As a recruiter, how much of it is like catching the recruiter's attention with something versus like showing your personality? Now, clearly, I'm wearing flag glasses, so personality is all I have to run with. So if we're looking at skills alone, I'd be in trouble. But I do think that's like it's worthwhile. I don't know. We gotta dispense some career advice while we're here. If you are unemployed, I think there's a tendency to just go really proactive with like, I see some desperate headlines. I'm sorry, people on LinkedIn about the job. So how do you be direct, but then also maybe show personality? This is an existential question. We're asking existential questions here Thursdays.
Yeah.
Comments, people, Jill.
Well, I just think, I think you should find ways to stand out, when you can. I think that's great. You show the personality. I mean, don't scare them, but there's different calculated attempts. You don't want to look like a dumpster fire out there, but at the same time, which, hey, if that's where you're at, it's okay. There's no shame.
If you're on fire with passion, Jill, people will come for miles to watch you burn. That's a quote. I was in a David Brooks book, I believe. Sorry.
It's a good quote. But I think showing personality does help you stand out, because the key is to stand out from the others in the pile. So I don't know if you want to pull the what's Elle Woods, the Pink. What is that movie? It's like Pink. She's a lawyer, and she has the
Legally Blonde
resume. Thank you.
Okay, my resumes are sent to Jill. Thank you.
I have a blonde moment. I can't remember.
I was like, what is she talking about? Is she not able to remember?
Yeah.
of legally
Hey,
blonde.
I couldn't remember it literally. I,
Is this a joke? Am I part of
they
a
did
joke right
stand out. They did stand out to the crowd, you know.
Yeah.
People did go with what's actually within your personality. Don't be fake, but get their attention.
Well, I think one of the comments that I know we've posted on our site, like, be authentic unless your authentic self is a jerk, and then be somebody else. I mean, that's hard. Who knows? How do we know? But this is where, like, having a bench of accountability, I've had several comments about that. This is where, the LinkedIn community can be great. Our community on ClearanceJobs, connect with recruiters and, like, ask for honest feedback. Sometimes don't ask for a job, ask for feedback. Like, hey, I'm, like, interested in XYZ positions with your company. Or are there any things I can do to better position myself for success? Or, what are you looking for in an applicant? Or trying to be a little more conversational versus direct can sometimes certainly help. Thomas, you're praying for us on the thread. Thank you. Anytime, people. That's delightful. I appreciate that. Thank you, Thomas. Shout out. So I appreciate all the comments that we got. If are there any other questions that come in, Katie's monitoring the chat. We have our next white paper. We're going to talk about it again, Jill, I'm sure, or maybe get somebody from BAE Systems is sponsoring that white paper. So shout out. BAE Systems is a great company to work for. A lot of opportunities, probably clearance sponsorship opportunities there as well. About the top 10 certifications. So next week, we're not going to talk about it here yet. You're going to have to wait. But if you're a ClearanceJobs customer, you'll get first access to the white paper next week. So if you're not yet, next thing, it is Top Gun Day. So if you're on the comment thread, if you joined us, share your favorite Top Gun quote, people. Anything else, Jill, before I sign off?
I think that's everything. Maybe go read Steve's Top Gun article from this week. Talk to me, Goose. So it's great. Lessons learned from Top Gun. So you got a little, your lessons learned that you get and some career advice. And you get a little Top Gun. And maybe you're inspired to watch the movie tonight then too.
You can learn things from TV. This is my oldest born is counting on this, helping him through his life. The TV will teach you things. He keeps telling me this. There's educational Top Gun. You can learn lessons to apply to your career. Katie has posted it in the thread. Thank you, everybody, for commenting here. Oh, we did. Okay, one clearance question. I can't leave the thread without a clearance question. Somebody asked about the clearance status, how long a clearance is current for. So I think the investigation timelines, dates, expirations will start to become less relevant for continuous evaluation. DoD is planning to have all security clearance holders enrolled in continuous evaluation by the end of this year. What will become really important is not leaving your cleared position for longer than 2 years. So that's worthwhile in the course of a conversation about unemployment. Don't stay unemployed for more than 2 years, or you probably won't be able to get that clearance reinstated without a new investigation, unless the policy changes. So right now, kind of 2 years is that separation from service date, where a gap in from one cleared contract to the other longer than 2 years, you could start to see issues. Good news, clearance processing times are improving. Interim clearances that can be issued in a couple weeks. So that's my clearance hot take for the day. Jill Hamilton, you can be my wing woman anytime. Thanks, Dallas, for the reminder of that quote. And no points for second place. Oh, now they're coming in. They're coming in like hot cake. Happy Top Gun Day, Jill.
Happy Top Gun Day to you, Lindy.
And LinkedIn people. Signing off.